and welcome to another episode of FooBar. Today we are talking about Amazon EventBridge Scheduler that it was announced a couple of weeks ago and is a new way to create event-driven applications. So Amazon EventBridge Scheduler is a new feature from Amazon EventBridge. I have done a whole playlist on how to use the buses from EventBridge, and the scheduler is kind of parallel to the buses. So when we are going to use the scheduler, we don't need any event bus. And what the scheduler allows us to do, as the name says, it's a scheduled task. So you can create a one-time task that you put a time and a date and boom, the task gets launched, or you can create recurrent tasks. And what those tasks can be? Well, they can be anything because EventBridge Scheduler integrates with almost every service that has an API in AWS. So you can use the same integration that you will use for step functions to integrate EventBridge with the different AWS services. So you will be using an API to do, I don't know, every second put something into Dynamo. I don't know, you can do whatever you want. Sure, there's things that doesn't make sense, like, I don't know, list all the items in a Dynamo table. So those kind of integrations are not there, but if it's a side effect integration, send a message or put an element in a queue or start and stop an instance or start an auto-scaling group or, I don't know, put an event in Dynamo or whatever you can imagine you can do. So why Scheduler is awesome? Because it opens a lot of possibilities. Until now, we could use like EventBridge events to create these kind of cron activities, but they were in a recurrent way. So if you want to do this one-time thing, you could not do it. And also you were restricted to a lot of the limitations that EventBridge events have. It's not that they are limited, but they're intended for something else. So the idea of EventBridge events is to integrate microservices together. And with Scheduler, we want to trigger things that happen on a schedule. So, for example, let's imagine that you are building a task application. And whenever a customer creates a task in your app, then you put a due date. And the customers want to receive an email like the week before the due date, the 2 days before the due date, or on the date of the due date. Now you can do this programmatically with Scheduler. So that's super powerful. Or imagine that you have, I don't know, I saw this example on a hack on how to create schedules and this was before Schedule was launching. So it was a person that wanted to build like a way for customers to unregister from their site. So imagine you have a service that you customers pay for, I don't know, every month or 1 year in advance subscription. And then when the subscription ends, you want to like remove the customers from the paid tier. So you can do this super easily with a scheduler, basically by just having a Lambda function when user pays the bill or register to the site. And then that creates a schedule attached to, well, when that subscription ends. And then when time passes and the, subscription ends, the scheduler gets triggered and it triggers maybe a Lambda function that will remove the element from the Dynamo table. Or you can even do it automatically from the integration and remove the person from your paid user Dynamo table directly without the Lambda integration. So that's something you can do with Scheduler now. So this is super, super exciting. I want to go over some of the features of Scheduler because I think they're very powerful. So to show you the features, I want to show it from the console. So we can go over some of the features, but then I want to show you at the end of the video how you can create schedules using CloudFormation and SAM. So let's go to the console. And say how you can do it. So you're in EventBridge and here you can see schedules. So you click there. And then in schedules, you will be able to create your own schedules. I have some that I already deployed, but let's create a new one and we can see what are the options. So we have to input a name. That's schedule, always a good name. Then you have to select the schedule groups. So schedule groups is a way to group your schedules. I'm so good at it. But basically it allows you to group all your schedules and that will like put tags to it. So if we go to Amazon EventBridge, we can check the schedule groups. And these schedule groups are just a collection of tags. But this is very handy when you want to create them programmatically and you want to gather all the schedules under one kind of billing tag or usage tag or something like that. And also the schedule groups are super important when we are going to look at the metrics and the analytics of how this works. So schedule groups are handy. So if you will be doing, I don't know, your paid remove subscription, remove paid customers, you can create a schedule group that will gather all your customers' schedules in here, and then you know that all the customer schedules are here. And one thing I forgot, and this is so important when we talk about scheduler, is that the scale. There is the limits are infinite for this. Most of the limits of EventBridge Scheduler are soft limits, so you can schedule 1 million schedules in your account, and that's massive. When EventBridge rules, we have 300 rules per account limit, so that's kind of huge. 1 million schedules per account. So let's go back and create the schedule now. And what we can do is, well, we specify the schedule group, and then you can decide if it's a one-time schedule or a recurrent schedule. So if it's a one-time schedule, you just pick the date, possibly in the future, and you pick the time where you want this schedule to run. And look at this, there's time zones. Yes, time zones. So many people were asking for them. So now you don't need to worry about in which region your schedules are running, because before it was the kind of server time. Now you can define in which time zone you want it to run. So this will run on the 28th of November at 4 o'clock in time Helsinki. So that's so easy. When you want to create them programmatically, you can create them based on the customer time zone. And then we have the flexible time window, and this is awesome as well. This is a window. If we have it off, then it will send it exactly at 4 o'clock. But we can say 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or something like that. And what this will do, it will send the schedule sometime between 15 minutes more or 50 minutes less. So in that way, you can disperse your schedule. So if you have like a lot of recurrent schedules at 4 o'clock, then everything bombards your downstream services. You might have some issues there, like a million schedules running all at the same time. So if you know that you will have that issue, well, you can say it's more or less, it's okay. It doesn't have to be a strict number. So maybe the flexible time windows will help you for that. If we go through the recurrent schedule, you can decide on cron, on a rate-based schedule. So these are just different ways to input your schedule. And you can also choose the flexible time window and the time frame in which you want this to run. So you can specify the time zone, and here is optional, and the same with the start and end date. Again, these are optional. So if you don't specify anything, it will start right away. So after that, we can then select the target, and these are some of the targets. So there's many targets. You can see all APIs, and you can just basically find the service you want, and you can basically click on it, and you can just add so much power to your application. So that's another difference with EventBridge rules, that with rules you have like 20 different targets. With here you have the whole AWS as a target. So that's very powerful. So if you pick, I don't know, let's publish an SNS message, then you can basically pick your topic. I don't know, let's pick any topic, and then you can pass a payload here. We are going to do this programmatically later. Then you can decide if you want to enable this schedule, and here you can define your retry and dead letter queue policy. So if you want this to be retried, you just enable this, and if not, then you can disable it, and you can say, okay, how many hours you want this message to be alive and how many times you want this to retry. So this is the default, 24 hours, 185 times, but you can change it as you wish. And again, you can select a dead letter queue. So in case that the retry fails, your messages, your schedules are not lost. They go into this queue and then you can pick them up from there and do something. So this is always good if you have targets that you can not sure if they will be able to process the messages. So if you have a 1 million requests coming in, I think it's good to have the dead letter queue just in case something fails. So for example, here it becomes very important if you have, I don't know, a lot of schedulers coming at the same time, and maybe your downstream services cannot take it. So here the retry and the maximum age of the event is important because EventBridge will retry until it can send the message. So maybe if you don't have enough capacity in, I don't know, your Lambda function because you're just bursting too much, then this is important. And then if for any reason it cannot send it in the 185 times, then it will go to the dead letter queue and you will not lose that schedule. So this is very, very important when you're working at scale, because it might happen that some of the downstream services might not be able to take the load. So if you're working at scale, use the window, the flexible window, and add a good retry and dead letter queue policies. Finally, we have encryptions, and we need to give permissions to this schedule to perform the activity in the target. So here you need to create a role that has permissions in the target to do whatever you want them to do. So if you want them to put an event in SNS, this role needs to have permission in SNS to do that. So that's kind of it, how you define the schedule and the different properties. So let's go to the code and see this in action. I want to show you a little bit of an example. So I want to show you a bit of an example. This is a simple example. It has 3 different types of subscriptions, so you can see it in different ways. The first one is the CloudFormation subscription that you can create. You can create this programmatically from AWS SDK, and you can create this from AWS CLI. In the blog post I wrote for the launch is with AWS CLI, and let me know if you want me to do this with AWS SDK as well. But for now, I show you with CloudFormation. And basically, I have here a topic. This is an SNS topic that is configured to a subscription, in this case, my email. And then we have a role. This is a role that allows a scheduler to put messages in my topic. So this role has the permission to do that. So this is the type of roles that you need to define. And then I have a schedule here that is the type schedule, and it's a recurrent schedule, and it gets triggered every minute, and the flexible time window is off. And this is the topic where we are going like the target, and this is the role. So this is so simple to define it like this. And how this works, well, let me show it to you. So we have in EventBridge Scheduler, the topic here. So this is my recurrent schedule. You can see the name, you can see the status is enabled. I need to remember to disable this because it sends me an email every 1 minute. So by now I should have like million minutes messages, but it's okay. And you can see that everything else is empty because we have not configured it. And then we can see here the target, that is the SNS topic. And basically I have the basic retry policy 1 day 185 times, no dead letter queue, and basic encryption. So let's open an email that this sent and we can see it in action. Since I started recording, I received this mail like 17, 18 times. And this is the email I'm getting, like basic information from the payload from Scheduler. You can configure that. There is a lot of here's more messages coming in. There is a lot of configuration you can put here. Let me know if you want to get to know more on how to send this with SDK, so you can configure and do all kind of interesting things. But this is the simplest configuration. So if we want to see this a little bit more interesting, we can go to CloudWatch metrics, schedulers, and then we can go to the group. This is my my group. I think all my metrics are kind of attached to this group. So it's a little bit pointless, but we can see here a little bit of what is going on. So we can see the sum every minute of messages that is being sent into this account, into this schedule group. Basically, it involves these free schedules that I have. They are all in the default schedule group, but you can see how they are behaving. And if you will have, I don't know, a lot of spike, for example, again, back to that scenario where we are going to here triggering the scheduler every time, I don't know, somebody is going out of their subscription, then we can have a metric here that says, okay, if the Lambda, if this group goes over, I don't know, 300, 1,000, then we are reaching our account limit. So maybe we need to be careful that we cannot run this scheduler 1,000 times right now, and we trigger an alarm or something like that. But you can play with this group and create alarms around this metric. In this case, it doesn't matter because, well, I have I have built this as a demo, so it's just sending 2 messages every minute, or kind of. So it's not a big deal, but for other use cases, maybe it's more important. So here you can see that it was beep, 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 and now it's stable. And this is because I turn on that schedule that is sending it once every minute. So that's why the difference. Before, these ones were other rules that I have configured. I will show it to you now. The other schedule I want to show you is a simpler, so the other schedule I want to show you is a simpler way to trigger Lambda functions using a scheduler with sum. And this is also very new. It's called the schedule B2. And it's a simpler way to basically invoke a Lambda function using a scheduler. So you just define your function, and then you trigger the function with the schedule and the right expression, and boom, you are triggering the function. So you can see the logs. I here have my function, and I should be able to see something. Let's see here, a minute ago, and my function it's just running there. And then another way to use sum, it's same way. So we have a function, and we use this schedule B2, that is a new type of way to invoke the Lambda function with the scheduler. But now we will create a more complex schedule. And here we have a schedule expression of 10 minutes. So this will run every 10 minutes. We will use the flexible window, and we will give it 5 minutes of flexible window. So every 10 minutes plus minus 5 minutes. And then we have a start date and an end date. So here I'm using the day of today and my time. So this will run for 1 hour. And then I'm using my time zone here, so you can see that. It's super easy to configure. Now I just look at my clock, and I can just, boom, put the right time. I don't need to do some weird math. Then I have a retry policy that says that it will try for 5 minutes, for 5 times for 300 seconds. And then I will have a dead letter queue configured. So this also works in the same way. And if we can go and check this schedule, my function complex schedule event, this great naming because it's combining things together. And you can see the schedule is 10 minutes. It has a start and an end. And then it's using my time zone, and it has the flexible window, and everything is here modified. Then we can see the target, that is that function. We can see the retry policy that we specify in here, and we can see the dead letter queue. This queue was created by sum, so we didn't need to create a queue. It just was created by sum. So this is super handy because it's one less thing that we need to manage. So good for that. So that's everything I wanted to show you today. So today we learned about the new scheduler, we learned why it's so awesome, how to create one-time or recurrent schedules, how to do it with CloudFormation, how to do it from the console, how to do it with some And if you want to know how to do it with CLI, the blog post is linked in the description box. You can go and read everything. And yeah, let me know if you want to know how to do it with SDK. And I see you in another episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao!